Okay, let's talk about something that's, well, it's often painful, isn't it? That feeling when you know you should probably step back from someone,
Hmm.
but there's this, like, invisible force pulling you closer, even though they're the source of the hurt.
It's incredibly confusing
Yeah.
and really, really common. It feels totally counterintuitive.
Right. Why are we drawn to people who make us feel bad or small or just empty?
It leaves you questioning yourself, your own judgment.
Exactly. And that's what we're really digging into today in this deep dive. Why do we love the people who hurt us?
Yeah,
We've pulled together insights from some really helpful sources, books like The Hope Trap, Why We Love the People Who Hurt Us, and Breaking the Pattern.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Really gets into the psychology.
Our goal here is basically to unpack it all, not just what is happening in these really complex situations, but why it happens.
And importantly, what you can maybe start doing about it, steps towards healthier connections.
Right. Because it's not just one simple answer, is it?
Oh, definitely not. It's
Yeah.
it's tangled up with our past, our brain chemistry, just so much.
And it's not about being weak or not smart enough. These are deep patterns.
Exactly. Patterns running under the surface, mostly unconscious.
Okay, so let's start with that pull. The weird way pain can sometimes get mixed up with love. How does that even work in our brains?
Well, one thing the sources point to is how these big emotional swings, the intense highs after really bad lows, can actually become, well, addictive.
Addictive, like chemically.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
That relief or that sudden burst of closeness after a fight, it can trigger dopamine.
Ah, the feel-good chemical.
Right. So your brain gets this reward signal and it starts associating the drama, the whole roller coaster, with excitement or passion. It's a really powerful, kind of twisted bond.
And that connects back to childhood, doesn't it? I mean, if that's what you learned early on.
Absolutely. If you grew up needing attention from someone who wasn't really there emotionally, maybe a parent who pulled away or only showed affection when you, like, achieved something.
You learn that love feels like striving or inconsistency.
Exactly. That push-pull dynamic starts to feel normal. It feels like home in a strange way. It's the only map you had for relationships.
So later on, when you find yourself in a similar situation, your brain goes,
Oh, right. I know this.
I survived this before.
Yeah, I know the rules here. And that makes it incredibly hard to leave, even when it hurts.
Because it's not just losing the person.
No, it's like you're tearing up this fundamental pattern your brain has labeled love, or at least connection, for years. That feels dangerous, subconsciously.
Wow. Okay, so that deep-seated familiarity, that survival instinct, that sets us up for what the sources call the hope trap, right?
Precisely. Because after the hurt, instead of running away, we often dig in deeper.
Holding on.
Holding on. Because sometimes hope just feels stronger than the pain you're in right now.
But what fuels that hope when things are clearly not okay?
Well, there's often that little voice inside, isn't there? The one that whispers.
Maybe they didn't mean it.
Or they'll change.
They promised this time.
Yeah. And we grab onto that. Partly because we remember the beginning, right? The good parts.
Oh, definitely. When they made you feel like the only person in the world seen, wanted.
And you get hooked on chasing that feeling again. Believing that if you just love them enough, or the right way, that person will come back.
So it's more than just memory keeping us there.
Oh yeah, it's actively reinforced. The sources talk about scraps of kindness.
Scraps of kindness, what does that mean?
Those little moments, after days or weeks of coldness, suddenly they do something nice or show a flash of warmth.
And it feels huge.
It feels like a massive win. Like, see, I knew it. They do care deep down.
And that just reinforces the decision to stay, to wait for the real them.
Exactly. You explain away the bad stuff. You tell yourself you're being strong, forgiving, and that idea of strength becomes part of the trap itself.
So underneath all that hope, there's usually fear.
A huge amount of fear. Fear of starting over, definitely. Fear of being alone.
Or that terrible feeling of, maybe this is the best I can get. Maybe I won't find anyone else.
Yeah, that's a big one. And it ties right into self-worth, doesn't it?
Enough so.
Well, you kind of build your whole emotional world around hoping this specific person will finally love you the right way.
Right. Like their validation is the key.
And the really painful irony is every time they don't give it, every time they hurt you again, it just makes you want their approval more.
Because if they finally did love me properly,
Then
then
maybe I'd finally be enough. Gets all tangled up.
that's the core trap then. Hope feels like the lifeline, but it's also what's keeping you hooked, keeping you in the pain.
Exactly. It's both the poison and the thing you keep reaching for.
Okay, so understanding all this, The brain chemistry, the childhood patterns, the hope trap. What's the way out? The sources must talk about actually breaking free.
They do. And the first step, maybe the hardest one, is admitting that the story you've built might just be a story. And realizing that real love shouldn't feel like you're constantly begging or waiting for someone to finally decide you're worthy.
That hits hard. So how do you start?
First step is see it for what it is. Really look at it
Like objectively.
as much as possible. Think about specific times. When did you feel small, unworthy, desperate?
Okay.
How many times did you forgive something you know you wouldn't let a friend put up with?
That's a good question.
What parts of yourself did you, shrink down to fit into their life? Make smaller, quieter.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of face the stark truth one source puts out there. This isn't love. This is survival dressed up like romance.
Survival dressed up like romance. Wow. That's powerful.
It is, but seeing it clearly is essential. And once you see it, the next big step is starting to believe you don't have to earn love.
You don't have to earn it.
No. The right person, a healthy connection,
Yeah.
it won't make you prove yourself every single day.
They won't punish you when they're hurting or twist things around.
Exactly. Real love, healthy love.
Mm.
It feels different. It feels calm.
Calm sounds nice, but maybe unfamiliar.
It can be. The sources say it might even feel boring sometimes. No fireworks, no panic, no knots in your stomach wondering if they're going to walk out.
And that lack of drama might actually feel weird at first, like something's missing.
It absolutely can. You might even push that calm away initially because you're so conditioned to the intensity.
Okay, so seeing it clearly, believing you deserve better. How do you actually do things differently? Day to day.
It's about tiny choices, not one big dramatic exit necessarily, but small, consistent actions that break the old cycle.
Like what kind of things?
Things like don't text them back at 2 a.m. when they suddenly reappear.
Okay. Resist that urge.
Yeah. Don't run to fix them or soothe them the next time they break your heart and then act regretful.
Hold that boundary.
Try to remember who you were before them. What did you like? What mattered to you? Reconnect with that person.
Finding yourself again?
And maybe the most important one, talk to yourself kindly. Like you would talk to your best friend if they were going through this.
Be gentle with yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And keep reminding yourself, it's not your job to save anyone but you.
That's a big shift in focus.
It is. But those small acts, done repeatedly, they start to rewire those old patterns.
And what happens then? When you start pulling back, creating distance, does it just feel empty?
It might, yeah. The sources acknowledge that. There can be an emptiness.
Which sounds scary too.
It can be. But they frame it this way, that emptiness is grief, but it's also space.
Space. For what?
Space for something real to grow, for a love that doesn't hurt, and maybe most importantly, space for you to give that love to yourself first.
So you can recognize the real thing when it shows up.
Exactly. Space to heal, space to choose differently next time. The question becomes, what are you going to fill that space with?
So just to kind of wrap this up, we started by looking at that strange pull, how our brains and past experiences can make painful dynamics feel almost normal, even addictive.
Right. The confusing mix-up of pain and connection.
Then we unpacked the hope trap, how that desire for change, chasing the highs, the intermittent kindness, and just plain fear keeps us stuck.
Yeah, how hope itself becomes the anchor holding us in place.
And finally, the path out involves really seeing the situation clearly, believing deep down that love isn't something you have to constantly earn.
And making those small day-by-day choices to break the cycle, those tiny acts of self-preservation.
Yeah. Choosing differently.
And the core message, really, across all these perspectives is pretty clear, isn't it?
What's that?
The people who hurt us don't heal us.
Yeah.
That part. We have to do that ourselves.
Step by step, choice by choice.
Exactly. It's your journey.
And by doing that, by taking those steps, eventually, you'll be able to see real love clearly when it's right there.
Yeah. Love with, as one source puts it, steady hands and no hidden knives.
Choosing peace, choosing yourself over the pain.
That's the goal. That's the possibility.